My name is Avery Collins, and on my 25th birthday, my entire life cracked open at the dinner table because of one question I wasn't supposed to hear. The restaurant was too fancy for us all white tablecloths and polished cutlery, but my mother thrived in places like that. She sat tall, rehearsed smile in place, my father nodding at everything she said, and my brother Ethan already checking the drink menu like he owned the place. I was used to nights like this. I'd pay for my own meals, listen to their bragging, pretend the distance didn't hurt. But then my grandfather stood up. He lifted his glass eyes, landing on me with a steadiness that made my stomach tighten. "Avery," he said, voice calm but heavy with intention. "Did you ever receive your trust fund?" The room didn't just go quiet. It froze. My mother's fork slipped from her fingers, clattering loudly enough that a couple at the next table glanced over. Ethan's smirk vanished. My father stiffened like someone had pulled a string in his spine. I blinked at all of them. Grandpa's attorney, Miriam Hale, reached into her bag and placed a thick, sealed envelope in front of me. "The trust fund Mr. Brooks established when you were a child. $3 million, transferred to your legal guardians, your parents, to protect until you turned 25. My pulse hammered in my ears. "I don't know what you're talking about." But my mother's face, drained of color, tight with panic, told me everything. And in that moment, surrounded by candlelight and strangers' conversations, I realized the life I'd been forced to build from scraps might never have needed to be built at all. Whatever happened next, nothing about our family would survive it. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the dinner, the stunned faces, the envelope, the way my mother tried to snatch it from me before I even touched it. Our family dynamic had always been uneven, but theft. For 25 years, I couldn't make it fit inside me. The next morning, pale sunlight stretched across my apartment floor. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the envelope Grandpa insisted I take. I hadn't opened it at the restaurant, not with my mother panicking beside me, but now alone, I slid my finger under the seal. Inside were documents, statements, signatures, transfers. Years of withdrawals. 5,000 here, 20,000 there. Payments for schools, vacations, renovations, everything except anything meant for me. My name was on every form, yet none of it had ever been my choice. Numbness settled over me. Not anger, not yet. Anger needs clarity. This felt colder, like realizing my entire life had been built on sand. My phone buzzed. From my mother. "We need to talk. Now. Do not involve your grandfather." From Ethan. "Don't be dramatic." It was family money anyway. Family money. The words cut deep. I put the phone face down, pulled on jeans and a sweater, and walked outside, needing air more than explanations. Everything looked slightly wrong, the coffee shop smaller, the sky different, the world shifted off its axis. At work, I could barely concentrate. My manager asked twice if I was okay. I said yes, because how do you explain your parents quietly stealing millions from you your entire life? By noon, I knew I couldn't go another hour without answers. I grabbed my coat, took a steadying breath, and headed to the only place that felt like truth. My grandfather's house. Grandpa lived 20 minutes outside the city, in a quiet neighborhood that always smelled like pine in winter. I'd walked up his steps hundreds of times, but that afternoon my legs felt heavy. The envelope and everything inside it seemed to follow me to his door. He opened it before I could knock. "I figured you'd come," he said, letting me in. His voice was gentle, but there was steel beneath it, like he'd been preparing for this far longer than I had. We sat at his dining table, sunlight spreading across the wood. Miriam Hale, the attorney from the restaurant, was already there with her laptop and folders laid out. This wasn't a family talk. It was a briefing. Grandpa motioned for me to sit. "Avery, you need to understand what your parents did wasn't a mistake. It was intentional." Miriam turned the laptop toward me. A deeper audit appeared, far more detailed than what I'd taken home. Lines of transactions, transfers, personal expenses, and all. "This can't be real," I whispered. "It is," Miriam said. "Henry hired independent forensic accountants. Every withdrawal aligns with your parents' spending." Grandpa leaned in. "I suspected something 20 years ago when your mother suddenly had money for Ethan's private school. She said she'd gotten a bonus, but the numbers didn't add up." "You knew?" My voice cracked. "I suspected," he repeated. "But suspicion isn't proof. Now we have proof." The numbers blurred as my eyes stung. 25 years of part-time jobs, skipped opportunities, believing my independence was a choice, not something stolen. "Why?" I asked. Grandpa sighed. "Because if you had your own resources, they couldn't control you." The word control hit harder than any figure on the audit. Miriam closed the laptop gently. Avery, it's time to decide how you want to move forward, legally, financially, and personally. I swallowed a new steadiness forming in my chest. For the first time in my life, the next move was mine. I spent the night replaying Miriam's words, legally, financially, personally. It felt like she'd handed me 3 knives and asked me to choose one. By morning, I still didn't know which direction to take, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending nothing had happened. My family certainly wasn't. At 8:13 a.m., my mother called. Again at 8:15. At 8:18, a text. Avery, answer your phone. We need to settle this privately. Privately, of course. That was where all the lies had lived. I ignored it. At 9:02, Ethan sent a voice message, his tone thick with entitlement. Avery, Mom says Grandpa's turning you against us. The trust fund was always for the family. Stop being dramatic. Family. Dramatic. The words sparked a simmering anger I'd never let myself feel. I'd spent years being the calm one, the forgiving one. I wasn't sure that version of me existed anymore. By noon, I knew I needed to face them. Avoiding the truth wouldn't soften it. It would only let them twist it again. I asked Grandpa to come with me, and he agreed instantly, as if waiting for me to decide. My parents' house looked exactly the same perfect lawn-curated porch, the facade of stability. But when my mother opened the door and saw Grandpa beside me, her smile faltered. We should talk alone, she said quickly. No, I said, stepping inside. We're doing this here. My father sat stiffly on the couch, eyes avoiding mine. Ethan slouched beside him, annoyed rather than guilty. I set the audit folder on the coffee table. My mother reached for it, but I held it steady. You stole from me, I said. For 25 years. Her expression hardened. Don't be ridiculous. We used it for the family. For Ethan. You never needed the money. Because you made sure I didn't, I said. The room tightened with a tension I'd never allowed before. For the first time in my life, I wasn't shrinking back. I was the one lighting the fuse. Silence filled the room, heavy and uneven. My mother spoke first, her voice shaking with outrage, not guilt. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us, by dragging outsiders into our private matters. Outsiders meaning Grandpa, meaning the truth. Grandpa didn't flinch. He sat quietly, hands over his cane, wearing an expression of tired disappointment. My father shifted under it. You didn't do things for me, I said evenly. You did them with my money. Ethan scoffed. You didn't earn that trust fund. Grandpa gave it to all of us. You're not special. He gave it to me, I snapped. Legally. In writing. And you all signed it. Ethan's jaw tightened. My mother paled. My father reached for the audit, but Grandpa stopped him with a single steady gesture. You spent nearly every dollar meant for your daughter's future, Grandpa said quietly. You took her autonomy and stability. My mother flushed. We were protecting her from what I asked. From independence. From choices. From not being financially trapped here. The words cut through the room. My father tried Avery. We thought we were doing what was best. The money wasn't going anywhere. It went to Ethan's tuition, I said. Your vacations, your remodels, your debt. Everywhere except me. My mother shot to her feet. We're done with this. No, I said, my voice rising. You're done controlling the story. Her eyes widened, stunned that the quiet daughter had finally seen the cage. I lifted the folder. There will be a formal meeting with attorneys. You can respond then. Avery, don't do this, my father whispered. Not for truth, but for the life they'd built on my money. And I was finished living inside it. The meeting was set for Tuesday, but the days before it dragged like stretched wire. I barely slept. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw the numbers, years of withdrawals, each one a small theft disguised as parental authority. Riley stayed with me the night before. She brought takeout and listened as I tried to explain without falling apart. At one point, she put her hand over mine and said, Avery, this isn't just money. This is your life they tried to script. Her words steadied me. When Tuesday came, the conference room felt colder than outside. A long table separated me from my parents. Grandpa and Miriam sat beside me. My parents had a lawyer I'd never met. Ethan hovered behind them, already annoyed. Miriam began with the audit. Her voice was calm and clinical. Every transaction documented Ethan's tuition. Mom's luxury bags, a Maldives trip I didn't know existed. My mother muttered exaggerations. My father stared at the table, jaw locked. When it was my turn, something settled inside me like a lock clicking open. I grew up thinking we were struggling, I said. I worked from 16. I skipped programs. I didn't apply to dream schools. You told me it was about independence, but it wasn't. You just left me nothing to depend on. My mother snapped. How dare you accuse us? How dare you steal from me? I answered. The room fell silent. Miriam slid papers toward me, documents transferring full control of the trust to me. All you need to do is sign. My mother lurched forward, panic breaking through. Avery, think about the family. I am, I said. For the first time, I picked up the pen. When the ink touched the page, something in me felt returned, like I'd finally stepped into a life that was actually mine. The moment I signed, the room changed, not physically, but something heavy lifted off me. My mother froze her hand, half extended, trembling. My father exhaled in defeat. Ethan muttered a quiet insult. Grandpa smiled, not triumphant, but proud, the kind of smile meant for someone who finally sees their own worth. Miriam gathered the papers. Control of the trust is now legally Avery's. All previous access is revoked. Any further disputes go through court. My mother's face tightened in panic. Court. Avery. We're family. Families handle things privately. We tried privately, I said. That's how you got away with this for 25 years. The realization hit her harder than anything I could say. Ethan stepped forward. So, what now? You get rich, and we're just out. You were never entitled to my future, I said. Grandpa rose slowly. Let's go, Avery. I gathered my things. At the door, my father finally spoke, voice small. We made mistakes. We thought we were doing what was right. I paused. If it were right, you wouldn't have hidden it. No one replied. Outside, the air felt cleaner, like something inside me finally had room to breathe. Grandpa put a hand on my shoulder. You did well. It still hurts, I said. Truth always hurts before it heals. That evening, I sat in my apartment with the signed documents before me. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt like space that finally belonged to me. I wasn't just reclaiming money, I was reclaiming my life. And for the first time, it truly felt mine. In the weeks that followed, life didn't magically transform, but it finally became mine to shape. The trust fund was transferred into a new account under my name, only something solid and undeniable. I hired a financial advisor recommended by Miriam, someone who talked to me like I was capable rather than confused. Together, we mapped out a future I'd never been allowed to imagine, finishing the design program I once couldn't afford, creating a safety net, investing in myself, instead of surviving day to day. For the first time, my decisions weren't limited by fear or money. I found a new apartment, small, filled with sunlight, nothing like the curated perfection of my parents' home. I bought a desk. I'd always wanted a real one, not the thrift store makeshift I used for years. I set up a workspace with plants, notebooks, sketches tacked to the wall. It felt like a beginning. My parents tried contacting me a few times, long messages, short messages, guilt-laced messages. I didn't block them, but I didn't answer either. Not yet. Healing isn't about pretending nothing happened, it's about choosing when and how to confront the past. And I wasn't ready to let them rewrite anything again. Ethan posted something vague online about betrayal and siblings who don't appreciate family sacrifices. I rolled my eyes and moved on. His noise no longer dictated the rhythm of my life. One afternoon, I visited Grandpa again. He sat on the porch, watching the trees sway, sunlight catching in his silver hair. When he saw me, he smiled, that soft, knowing smile I'd come to recognize. "You look lighter," he said. "I feel lighter," I admitted. "Good." He patted the seat beside him. "Freedom suits you." I sat, letting the quiet settle around us, not the suffocating quiet of secrets, but the peaceful kind that comes after truth finally has room to breathe. "You once told me they tried to control me by taking away my choices," I said. I didn't realize how true that was until now. Grandpa nodded. "You can't change what they did, but you can make every choice from this point forward yours, and I will. Because the greatest revenge isn't anger or punishment. It's building a life so full, so steady, so authentically mine, that the people who tried to control it will never have the power to dim it again.